Forests do not destroy cities in a single night. They wait, they listen, and then they swallow them. There was a time when this place was louder than any modern capital. Drums echoed through stone corridors. Fires burned relentlessly from dusk till dawn. Kings stood on carved terraces and believed their empire would last forever. And now, there is only wind. Roots wrap around the walls like skeletal fingers. Towers lean. Faces carved into stone stare into emptiness. The air feels heavy, almost as if you're being watched. How does a city, this powerful one, that ruled Southeast Asia for centuries, simply disappear? To understand that, we must return to the illusion. At its peak, Angkor was more than just a city, it was the heart of the Khmer Empire. Long before the modern world understood the concept of a megacity, nearly 1 million people lived here. Engineers designed vast reservoirs to capture the monsoon rains. Canals stretched for miles, feeding rice fields that shimmered like mirrors beneath the sun. From above, it looked invincible. Temples like Angkor Wat rose toward the sky with mathematical precision. Every carving told a story, every wall declared divine authority. Kings did not merely rule here, they were considered god kings, living bridges between heaven and earth. Imagine standing in that city at dawn. The scent of incense in the air, the chants of monks, the sound of thousands moving through the markets. The empire felt as though it would last for eternity. But eternity is a dangerous belief, because while the towers climbed toward the sky, the cracks were already forming below. The entire system depended on water. Massive barrages, artificial reservoirs, collected monsoon floods and redistributed them during the dry season. It was an engineering miracle. For centuries, it worked flawlessly, until the climate changed. The rains became unpredictable. Years of violent monsoons were followed by devastating droughts. Canals overflowed, then turned into veins of cracked mud. The delicate balance began to collapse. And when water fails, empires fail. But the threat was not only the climate. Power gives birth to ambition. Within the palace walls, the sounds of succession struggles echoed. Kings rose and fell. Political instability weakened the center. Distant regions began to question control. Trade routes shifted. New powers emerged. And then pressure came from the west, the rising kingdom of Ayutthaya. At first, it was distant, a rival, a whisper. Then it became a threat. In 1431, Ayutthaya's forces attacked. They breached the defenses. They looted. They further destabilized an already fragile structure. But here is the unsettling truth. Angkor did not vanish in a single dramatic night like Pompeii. It faded. Slowly. Silently. And that may be even more terrifying. Because the people did not die all at once. They left. The royal court gradually moved south, closer to maritime trade routes near present-day Phnom Penh. The political center of gravity shifted. The once mighty capital was no longer practical. Imagine watching your world shrink and disappear. Markets closing, neighbors packing their belongings, sacred ceremonies growing smaller each year, the great reservoirs drying out. The jungle did not smash through the gates. It advanced quietly, seed by seed, root by root. When maintenance stopped, canals clogged. Without human hands managing the system, the hydraulic network collapsed. Floodwaters tore through weakened channels. Drought hardened the soil. Infrastructure decayed. Stone cracks. Nature enters. And when nature enters, it never leaves. Centuries passed. Travelers spoke of enormous ruins hidden deep within the forests of Cambodia. Stories spread of a lost city swallowed by green darkness. In the 19th century, European explorers were stunned when they saw temple towers rising from dense jungle as if from another world. But Angkor was never truly lost. Local communities always knew it was there. The myth of a lost civilization was largely a Western illusion. The real disappearance was far more complex. This was not a story of annihilation. It was transformation. The Khmer people survived. Their culture endured. But the capital, the symbol of divine permanence, had failed. And that failure carries a warning. Because Angkor's collapse was not the result of a single catastrophe, but a chain reaction. Environmental stress, overly complex engineering, political instability, external pressure, each manageable on its own, together devastating. The hydraulic system that made Angkor powerful also made it vulnerable. It was too vast. It required constant maintenance. The extreme climate fluctuations of the 14th and 15th centuries, confirmed today by tree-ring and sediment analysis, moved faster than the infrastructure could adapt. Imagine that. One of the most advanced urban systems of the pre-industrial world defeated by climate volatility. Does that sound familiar? There's something deeply human in Angkor's story. We build systems that seem invincible, we expand them, we optimize them, we assume tomorrow will behave like yesterday. And when it doesn't, we are exposed. If you walk through Angkor today, you can still feel that tension. Giant tree roots wrap around temple walls. The faces of Bayong gaze calmly ahead, as if they have witnessed this cycle countless times before. Rise, peak, decline, silence. But there is something most people never consider. Angkor may not have disappeared because it failed, but because it adapted. When trade shifted toward maritime routes, inland megacities lost their strategic value. Moving the capital closer to river and sea routes was not simply retreat, it was repositioning. In other words, the empire did not die screaming. It changed direction and left its monumental heart behind. What does that say about permanence? We romanticize ruins. We see tragedy in abandoned stone. But for the people living through it, relocation may have meant survival. It may have been a rational decision. The image of Angkor being swallowed by jungle feels dramatic, cinematic. But the real story is quieter. Strained systems, leaders miscalculating, unpredictable climate shifts, infrastructure too complex to sustain, and people choosing continuity over nostalgia. Still, stand alone in front of Angkor Wat at sunset. Listen, there are no more chants, no royal processions, only insects and wind moving through stone corridors. The scale feels almost defiant, as if the stones are trying to prove they were never abandoned. And maybe they weren't, because Angkor did not truly disappear. It transformed from a living capital into a symbol, a warning carved into sandstone, a reminder that no system, no matter how advanced, is immune to change. Empires do not always collapse in massive explosions. Sometimes they erode, quietly, while everyone believes they are eternal. And perhaps that is the most disturbing truth of all. If a city this vast, this organized, this powerful can dissolve into jungle silence, what makes us any different? Maybe the real question is not why Angkor vanished. Maybe it is whether we would recognize the signs when they begin for us, and whether we would live in time. If this story fascinated you, there are many more cities left off the map. Cities that rose, ruled, and quietly disappeared. Subscribe to Off the Map, because sometimes the ruins of the past whisper things about our future we may not want to hear.